was in Philadelphia who had said to him, if you ever want to learn about printing, then we'll teach you. Come to Philadelphia. And he was pretty young. They went to Philadelphia, and he goes into the plant, and first day, and he's dressed in a suit, and his fingers have been manicured, and they said, okay, you see that press over there? I said, yeah. You see that bucket? You see that rag? Take off your clothes and go clean the press. So they went and cleaned the press, and then they taught him about print. So then they wanted to open up in Dallas. So they sent him to Dallas. They said, find a space, rent a press, and sell. So that's how he came to Dallas. So he would sell in the daytime. He'd go back and he'd change his clothes and print at night. He'd deliver it in the morning. He'd change his clothes and go out and sell. And during the time he was here, he had a friend, and they went to lunch one day, and when they're driving back to work, the friend says hello to the woman who became my mother. And so after they passed, he said, who is that? And so she told him. He said, I want to meet her. And so that's how he met my mom. So he ran this business here, and then they decided, so he said, close it up, get the press back, and come to Philadelphia. And so they were married at this point. So he went back to Philadelphia. He had grown to love Dallas, and that's where her family was, and so they didn't like Philadelphia, and so he moved back to Dallas, and he contacted the man he had leased the press from. The man still had the press, but my dad didn't have any money to open up a business, and so he went to one of my mom's brothers, and he said, can I borrow $500? And so he said, yes. And so that enabled him to rent a space and rent the press and open up his place. Did a lot of photography. He was really into electronics. Gosh, even in the 60s, he had a two-way radio in his car, so he could communicate with the office and get messages. So he was really into that kind of stuff. He would really be a real social media person if he were alive. He was involved in masonry. He was involved in a lot of civic organizations. He was a consummate salesperson. He was the highest volume salesperson, the highest margin. He was great with people. He started out, I think, as letterpress, and then I think converted to offset mid-to-late 40s or early 50s. And then he changed the name to American Printing and Lithography. I asked him once how he picked his original name, American Poster, and he said because he was American, we were in America, and he wanted to be listed first in the Yellow Pages because he printed posters and did printing. So boxing posters, theatrical posters. I asked him about the ABCO name once. He just wanted to be listed first in the Yellow Pages, so he just picked ABCO. So we weren't a printing company. So it had evolved from American Poster and Printing Company to American Printing and Lithographing when he went offset to, as we got into the, I'd say the 60s and 70s, then did business as American Graphics Press. We wanted to offer things to our client that would move us not totally away from print, but would move us in a different direction more recently so that we stay current. And so we decided to go after the contents of what was going in binders and really focused a lot on training. So again, trying to evolve. So a young man had been hurt on the press. His arm had gotten caught in the press. You know, the ambulance came, they'd been taken to the hospital, and his hand, there was a question as to whether his hand could be saved. This gentleman who wrote the letter had called my dad. And so my dad went over to the hospital, and it's on the letter, the man saying, you know, I called you, I told you about this, and I'd done everything I could do. It was in the hands, but that wasn't good enough for you. So you drove to the hospital, and you talked to every doctor you saw until you could get one of those. You explained to them how his hand was important. And you didn't stop until you got a doctor who said he would try and save his hand. He said, you know, you didn't stop till you knew he was going to be okay. He said, if I could give the greatest compliment I could give a man, it would be to say you're as good a man as Harry Kaplan. He found he had cancer in 1969 in the spring. And so that next January, he went up to Iowa and had surgery, which had he not had the surgery, then he wouldn't have lived. He kind of got back to having more energy and didn't have the pain, and so he then was involved again. And then I think probably within the next 2 or 3 years he had surgery again. They were cutting away cancer. He passed away in November of '76. Up until then he was working, and from then on he was pretty much in the hospital. I think I've tried to carry forward what I would consider my dad's legacy. I still view the company as his company. And people have always been important to us. I mean, we can't do whatever we do without our people. And so we've tried to have an environment that's really people-oriented. We try to contribute back to the community by being involved in organizations like the American Heart Association and donating print to them, and different organizations of that type, St. Jude's, Dallas International Film Festival. When it gets down to it, we're still about people. And so whether it's a charity or whether it's someone at ABCO that's having issues or difficulties, that we really want to look after people.